What's up, YouTube? This is Davao Tones. Um, I'm starting a new podcast. I've done scattered content in the past, a little bit on growing, um, abandoned structures in Detroit. I lived in Detroit for a while. But my bigger story is that I'm an Army veteran, now a disabled veteran, and I'm gonna be doing some traveling, um, particularly to the Philippines. Um, I lived in the Philippines for 3 years after I got out of the Army. I came back to the United States and kind of been here ever since. But the time has come for me and now my family, my wife and my children, to migrate back to Southeast Asia and probably some other places. There's more to my story, and I will be doing this podcast on different stories that I have gone through, all of them very true. I won't lie to anybody about anything I've been through. I don't think I have to. I've got too many stories. Trying to keep my thoughts together here. Yeah, I'm an Army veteran. Lived overseas. Came back to the United States because I kind of went broke in the Philippines. Was with a girl who didn't have the same plans as I did and really screwed me over pretty good. And I lost everything. Came back to the States as an indigent, and I'm just not recovering from it. Well, I've recovered from it, but anyway, it's gonna be another story for this podcast in particular. For now, I'm just gonna be doing it here at home. I'm in Michigan, in the Grand Rapids area. I don't want to say my exact city until I'm out of here, and I'll express it more. Was living in Detroit for about just short of 4 years. Really regret moving back to this side of the state for various reasons. I've been here 7 months on this side of the state again, where I'm from. And it's been a big mistake. I really should have stayed in the Detroit area, but regardless, my plan was always to go back overseas and live. I think once you spend time overseas living, you really have a hard time living back in the States once you've experienced it. So it's just about time where I'm able to leave again. Waiting on some paperwork to come back from the Philippines, and then I'll be able to go back there. But I think until that happens, we're gonna take off and go stay in Vietnam. I've got an Army buddy who's been living and working in Vietnam, and I don't think that just because I can't go back to the Philippines right now doesn't mean that I have to stay in the United States. I have the income to leave. I have permanent income, and I'm going to be starting this vlog. I plan on building a series of businesses overseas. So yeah, that's where I'm at now. My YouTube channel's been hit or miss. Like I said, I've done a wide variety of content. But now I'm going to be focusing on this, and I'm going to tell you guys my story. So like I said, I went broke in the Philippines. I came back to the United States. I was an illegal immigrant in the Philippines for 2 years. I overstayed my visa. In the Philippines, they'll call it overstay. Here in the United States, we'd probably call it an illegal. Um, I had to figure out how, and I was 22 when I went to the Philippines, right out of the army. Came back to the United States from South Korea. Didn't know what to do with myself. Got in a little trouble, drinking and stuff, and decided I didn't want to be here. And I had a girlfriend that I met in Korea, and she was in the Philippines. So I took off and went and stayed there with some savings. But yeah, I ended up having to go to the U.S. Embassy, and like I said earlier, I'm gonna do a whole video on that. This is gonna be a part of my podcast. I've got to gather my thoughts. I've got short-term memory loss, so that way I can give it to you guys correctly. Some people are gonna probably find this very informative. There are probably people abroad, or in the Philippines particularly, who have gone through this or are going through this now. Some people I've heard in the past have been arrested, put in jail, and deported. If you're stuck abroad, you don't have to do that. One of my next episodes, I'll go through in detail, but you can get home without going to jail. I did it, like I said, from the age of 22 to 25. I was over there. I lived really, really rough for a minute. I was broke in the Philippines at age 22, well, 23, 24 and 25, which is a lot younger than any of the guys that you'll be meeting over there, unless they're backpackers and whatnot. But I mean, as far as guys going to live there full time and actually having the experience of living abroad, you probably won't meet anyone as young as I was over there. Had to figure myself out and find a way home. Ended up using some of my VA benefits to survive, but for the most part, I lived like a local. I broke up with the girl that I was with, and through a series of events, I met my wife, and she helped me out considerably. And if you meet the right Filipino woman, they will do everything they can for you. Not all of them are. A lot of guys will tell you that they're money hungry and so many other things, but that's not always the case. My wife is beautiful inside and out. I couldn't have found a better wife here in the States or in any other country. I don't think. I wouldn't give her for the world. Wouldn't change it. So yeah, I've been stuck for the most part here in the United States, trying to get my stuff together, my finances together, working on some of my own personal issues that I've had to get squared away, and I was blacklisted. I've been blacklisted from the Philippines because of my overstay, and I've just about got that squared away, which is another part of the other the podcast episodes that I want to do, explaining the processes of how I did all this. It's costed me quite a bit of money. So if you're going overseas to live and you just think you're just gonna go over there and that's it, because it's a third world country or whatever, that your money's gonna last forever and you don't have to worry about their government or what they think, you're wrong. You can end up in some serious trouble, and if you manage to evade it, it's gonna take you years to overcome it. It's taken me 9 years. It's cost me, and I've gotten lucky because I've heard that guys end up paying a lot more. Some guys, but it's cost me so far almost 15,000 US dollars. Uh, I'm waiting on one more piece of paper that should be coming hopefully by February. Here we are in December of 2023. I'm hoping by February 2024 I'll have this piece of paper that will allow me to re-enter the Philippines. I went there in 2018. I called ahead and I called the immigration main office there in Manila, and they told me that I would be able to pay my fines and fees in the airport when I tried to go back, and I was misinformed big time. I got there with my wife. Her father was having some health issues, and when I tried to pay my fines and fees in the airport, they actually tried to overcharge me quite a bit. I think I owed like 60,000 pesos at that time, and they wanted to charge me 200,000 pesos to get in, which I really didn't even have that much money with me. Me being young and kind of straightforward, I guess, not really cocky, but straightforward, I said, that's corrupt. You're not supposed to charge me that much. And they said, well, we're gonna turn you around and send you to your last point of entry, which at that time was Japan. And I would have been stuck in Japan for 2 weeks, which I didn't know anybody in Japan at the time. So I pleaded with them not to send me back to Japan. They were able to get my return ticket amended, and they sent me back to Chicago. I told my wife to go ahead and go through and see her family, and I took the long flight back to Chicago, which, I mean, with layovers and everything at that point, I think I'd been traveling altogether by the time I got back to Chicago for like 5 days straight through airports, and oh, it was just such a tedious trip. But yeah, it's just about all cleared up now, and I'll be going back to the Philippines, and I've got quite the story. You know, while using my VA benefits for college and that, surviving in the Philippines, because they give you a housing allowance, you can go to school online. I didn't know of any jobs, didn't have the means to do a YouTube channel or start vlogging or anything. Did what I could figure out, which was, you know, going to school, using my GI Bill, and getting the housing allowance and everything, and a little kickback. It helped me survive, helped me get a ticket home and everything. But I did other things. I tried different business ventures in the Philippines to help me get back on my feet and straighten my life around there before I came back, and they were mostly largely unsuccessful. Got into, I don't know how many people have come across this. It's usually mostly a scam, but there are people who hunt treasure in the Philippines. It sounds wild, but during World War II, there was a lot of US and Japanese precious metals, gold, things like that, that were misplaced during, you know, the commotion of combat and one country taking over from the other country, and, you know, back. There were large amounts of gold found in the Philippines. I got into that, tried to met some other Americans that got me into that. That was a big mess. Got out of that. Had a few people threaten my life. I ended up having to go to the embassy. It was wild. But I lived like a local quite a bit. I learned quite a bit of the Visayan language. I'm not as fluent as some guys I see over there these days, vloggers. But I understand quite a bit. I know enough to navigate myself and survive. Learn to eat Filipino food. Really lived like a Filipino. I don't think I've met other people who have really, well, I've seen a couple vlogs lately and a couple videos where there's been some guys that have roughed it. Maybe a little worse than I did, but I'd say at that time I didn't know anybody in my circumstances. Really lived pretty rough, was almost homeless on the streets in Davao and even in Manila for a minute. By the grace of God, I made it home. But I fell in love with the country. I fell in love with the place, with the people, despite the one person that really did me wrong. It's a beautiful place with a beautiful people, as long as you keep your nose clean, I guess. Keep yourself out of trouble. Made friends with a guy, a buddy of mine I'm still friends with, named Joe. He had what was called the Association of Foreigners in the Philippines. It wasn't very big. I intend to get it going again. I've talked to Joe, and what he does is he helps foreigners. He helped me a little bit through my situation. I navigated quite a bit myself, but he helped me a bit when I was in need, welcomed me into his home. He was staying there in Las Piñas, outside Manila. And I was traveling back and forth, or I traveled back and forth a couple times to Manila. Once I stayed there 3 months, and another time I stayed there 6 months. Second time I rented a bed space, bunk beds. We were staying with my in-laws, but in a place they were renting from. But I mean, literally renting a bunk bed in a room full of Filipinos, eating what they eat. You know, it was interesting, and it was tough at the time, but I wouldn't change it for the world. And when I do go back, I'll be going back with a whole different plan. First of all, I've got the experience living there as a local. I know a lot of what works and what doesn't work in the Philippines, what Filipinos do and don't like, as opposed to going there as a young foreigner and wanting to start a business that catered to foreigners. It just doesn't work. That's not my plan this time. Another thing that I've got as an advantage is I've got great in-laws. A lot of guys will tell you, don't deal with your in-laws in the Philippines. It's just gonna ruin you. My first in-laws, my ex's family, were absolutely horrible people. They were very uneducated, from a very rough area, and they were the money-hungry type of people. But my circumstances aren't the same anymore. I trust my in-laws with my life, with my children's lives, and I'm closer to them than a good bit of my own family. So going back, everything that I do will have them included in my plan. But yeah, after coming back here, I bounced around a bit. I went down to Tennessee for work. Michigan was kind of rough, at the time. Tennessee went okay for a little bit when I was still homesick. Came back to Michigan. Really had a hard time. I always seem to have a hard time when I come back to Michigan. It takes me a while to get going good. Got my wife here in 2016. I come back in 2015. Got her here in 2016. You know, did some jobs. Ended up starting my own company. Moved to Detroit. Bought a fixer-upper house there, and things really took off for me in Detroit. I made great money. Dabbled in trying to grow. I got into the urban farming movement in Detroit. Bought a lot next to my house, a vacant lot. Started farming that, which was wonderful. I bred dogs, purebred Rottweilers, and I was able to get my disability compensation, which is what I'll be going back to the Philippines on. And moved back over to this side of the state after right before my second child was born, my son. I wanted him to be born here. My daughter was born in Detroit. I wanted to be closer to family, and coming back over this way, it's just it seems to me that American values have really, in a lot of places, took a slump. Family life isn't really what it was. A lot of Americans, a lot of our values in the United States seem to be declining, our morals. It's another reason why I want to move back to the Philippines and raise my children there. I think that they're morally a lot more pure and have better family values than we do here in the United States. So, with all that being said, I'm gonna do some notes and kind of strategize how I make this YouTube channel. I'll be telling my story, and once I start traveling here in a few months, I will post and upload everything that we do, as far as our travels, what it takes us to get to airports, the experiences, good and bad, we have in whatever country we end up going to. For sure Vietnam here soon, for sure the Philippines, but I'll have some stipulations to my return to the Philippines, and I'll have to leave periodically and come back. I'm pretty sure more often than most usually do, who didn't get blacklisted. So I'll have to spend time in other countries. I'll have to leave the Philippines, which I'm not gonna come all the way back to the United States. I'll shoot over to Thailand, or I'll shoot to Indonesia, or Korea. I've spent time in Korea. I know Korea like the back of my hand. I love Korea. It's just too cold. Korea is cold. So yeah, this will become an interesting channel, and I plan for it to be very informative. Like I said, I also plan on starting up the Foreigners in the Philippines association again. I know there are a lot of foreigners, as I said earlier, who have really struggled and roughed it in the Philippines or in other countries, but I'll be in the Philippines. I've even seen guys living out on the street, YouTube videos of guys who are just completely broke, especially after COVID. COVID really screwed a lot of guys over living over there. I'll do my best to give back and help people out in rough situations. But again, there's probably only so much you can do for some people who aren't willing to do it for themselves, or maybe there's a reason that they might have gotten themselves into that Me being the way I was when I went there, I was determined to either fix my situation or get my ass home. And I did a little bit of both. Um, and ever since I got back here, it's been my biggest goal to eventually go back. Now I'm almost 35. The Philippines has been a part of my life since I was 20. Kinda went there at 22. So we're talking almost 15 years of experience dealing with the Philippines at this age. I'd like to build a resort, get some rental properties. I'm gonna start a soup restaurant. I'll probably open a grocery store. I've got very, very high hopes for going back this time. So like I said, I'll help out where I can. Give back a little bit. You know, karma. I believe big in karma. And paying it forward, I guess. So stay tuned. I've got some subscribers on here from, you know, my videos before. It's not the same content. I think it'll be a lot more interesting. I'm a young guy. I'm just like most people, and I'm tired of being where I'm at. I'm tired, you know, just sitting here isn't enough for me. So I'm getting up and I'm getting the hell out of here. And that's been my mentality for years. Being back here in the United States is, I've felt trapped more or less, but it is what it is. It takes time. Things take time, and patience, which I don't have. I don't have patience, you know, for the most part. Quite a bit. I'm very impatient. Yeah, I think that covers everything for now. Stay tuned. I will be putting out more videos. There are some people who know my story. This podcast is gonna be, I'm gonna name it something along the lines of, you know, foreigner goes broke in the Philippines, or 22-year-old American goes broke in the Philippines. This direct series of videos will be, you know, something along those lines, and the rest is just gonna be a vlog. It's gonna be everything I do, building a house, building businesses, remodeling houses that, you know, I've seen some deals on some properties in the Philippines recently, and I plan to grab a few. So I'll be doing a lot of things, very positive things. I've got friends there, and my friends here that know my story. I've had family members and friends tell me that I should write a book. I dropped out of high school in the 9th grade, got my GED and joined the Army, did some college. To be quite frank, I don't know how to write a book. I might be able to get someone to write a book for me. But I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna vlog everything, and I'm gonna tell my story here. So if you're interested, if you're a like-minded individual, or you just want to know what it takes to go and move out of the country, travel the world, stay tuned, subscribe, hit that like button for me, and let's take this journey together. Have a good night, guys.